So, Zuby, was this a good moment for Liz Truss to have vowed to protect notes and coins if she becomes Prime Minister?
Hey, Dan. Yeah, I think that's a positive thing for her to say. I think that after the last couple of years, people are increasingly worried about increased centralized control, loss of privacy, and things like that. People are concerned about the talk of central bank digital currencies. People have seen what's happened in other countries. You mentioned China and Canada, two very different countries, but both cases in which people have been able to have their own money seized. We have to remember this is their own money. And so I think it's good for her to give some reassurance that that is not the way that the UK is trending.
Zuby, it's so fascinating, isn't it? Lots of, I would describe them as quite woke companies actually do ban the use of cash throughout the UK even today.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's silly. I mean, that's an individual business decision that can be made, just like there are cash-only businesses. I mean, personally, I'm happy to take both cash and cards or however else someone wants to pay me. I mean, those are individual choices, but as we've discovered and as we've talked about many times, there's a difference between a choice and a mandate. So if an individual private business or company or entrepreneur decides that the way they want to be paid is just in cash or just via card or just via Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency, whatever it is, maybe they want to be paid in beads or salt or seashells, that is their personal choice. However, if it was made mandatory, if cash was abolished entirely, then that opens the pathway for increased centralization, increased surveillance, and increased control, which I think people rightly should be concerned about.
Well, yeah, totally, Zuby, because I wouldn't have thought this was a big deal previously. I mean, at the start of the pandemic, I thought, oh, this is a great excuse not to have lots of dirty coins in my pocket. But for me, it was seeing the way government wanted to control citizens over the course of the pandemic, and specifically the way that Trudeau was able to use a partly cashless society to throttle the Canadian truckers and effectively stop their protest action. I mean, I know he did a lot of things, didn't he? But actually freezing bank accounts was one way that he did it. And I just thought, no, we don't know what government in the future might try and do. So this is such an important principle to stand up for, and we should actually start trying to use cash more.
Yeah, it's important for people to have that option. Obviously, I myself am a big advocate for Bitcoin specifically because I think it fixes a lot of these problems. But I think also it's important to remember that there are people who are simply more comfortable with using cash. Not everyone has debit cards and credit cards, or if they...
Absolutely, and people who want to actually budget, given we're in this cost of living crisis or cost of lockdown crisis, I call it. So it'd be just funny, can you just explain why Bitcoin would solve this in your view? Because, of course, Bitcoin is an electronic form of cash, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's entirely decentralized, so it's not controlled by any central bank or centralized authority anywhere in the world. It allows you to transact peer-to-peer without having a middleman, and it also tackles things such as inflation. Bitcoin is limited to 21 million units. It's infinitely divisible, and no more of it is ever going to be made, so you can't just go and print Bitcoin like you can go and print US dollars or British pounds or euros and so on. So I've only got a short moment of time to explain it, but those are some of the core things. It's trustless, it's decentralized, and peer-to-peer with no middleman.